Hello everybody, so this video is entitled MSTR stock, are green dots coming, plus Saylor weighing in on BIP110. I want to talk about what's going on with MSTR stock, what's going on about the stock, and kind of tell you my thoughts about all of this. So first of all, we had quite the positive start of the week, bouncing back to nearly 105, and then we started underperforming into the end of the week. There is no denying that MSTR is lagging Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin recovered nicely. It's sitting at 64,000 right now. It's really nice, but MSTR stock has been dumping. Therefore, we are now at a crazy low MNAV of 1.02 MNAV. That is very low. And so Mr. Market continues to be manic depressive. I guess that could be one take. Another take, and I'm not saying it couldn't be both Mr. Market being manic depressive, not knowing how to weigh stocks, but another reason, of course, for stock being $94, could be that there was some massive ATM done, because Saylor tweeted an hour ago, orange dots tell only part of the story. So this tells me that he's looking to add green dots. He's looking to add to the cash balance. So my expectation for tomorrow is probably an increase in the cash balance that backs up Stretch and that backs up all of the preferred. Are we going to get a green dots chart for Stretch? Maybe. I think over time, tracking that cash balance could be helpful, and I think it could assuage some of the fear that the market may have had about Stretch. Noting that Stretch is really correlated with MSTR stock. If you look at the movement of Stretch compared to MSTR stock, it's roughly the same movement. The correlation is very high. So moving on to Stretch, let's talk about Stretch. A few things are clear to me. One of the first thing that is clear to me is that Saylor is all in on Stretch. He won't hesitate, and this is a key word, short term. He will not hesitate to hurt the common stock short term for Stretch to succeed. And so that means ATMing the common ATM while he still can, in order to increase the cash reserve to prop up Stretch and to make sure that Stretch remains successful. I've said this a very long time. The preferred are higher in the capital structure. The stock is the last claim on the Bitcoin. It's the last claim. The preferreds are higher up in the capital structure. The converts are even higher up in the capital structure, right? That's why he retired some of the converts. Many people being upset he did that, but they're even higher up in the capital structure. Saylor is focusing on these other instruments that he has, making them successful, making digital credit successful. And if he has to sell MSTR stock, if he has to create weakness in MSTR stock to make Stretch successful, I don't think he will hesitate. He's not a short-term thinker. He's a long-term thinker. This is why a few takes need to be said once more about MSTR. MSTR is not a short-term play. Options on an MSTR are extremely risky. There's a reason why those premiums are so good. Those premiums are so good because the underlying MSTR is a highly volatile beast. That's the reason. And then another point that I think I've never really addressed on the channel, but let's face it, when Saylor ATMs become an ATM, who do we think is the most impacted? Saylor is actually the most impacted when he sells a common ATM because he owns about 10% of the stock, controls 45% of the stock. So when Saylor ATMs on the common, he hurts himself first. He's the first one to be hurt by this because he's the founder of a company, right? He owns most of the company. And another take, of course, is I don't think Saylor really cares about his wealth fluctuating over the short term and even over the medium term. And if history is an indication, you've probably seen all the FUD pieces where we see that old newspaper showing Saylor losing $6 billion in a day, seeming unfazed by that type of loss. So a few conclusions. Saylor will not hesitate to sacrifice the short-term performance of the common stock in order to make digital credit happen. And I think the reason why MSTR may have been down towards the end of the week, that reason may be that he used the common ATM to add green dots to the dollar reserve, to the USD dollar reserve. So Saylor doubling down on this, Saylor doubling down on trying to appeal to the rating agencies so that the rating agencies look favorably on the instrument Stretch, STRC, which is kind of the iPhone moment of strategy. So this is what I think is going on. Now, entirely different topic. Let's talk about Bitcoin Improvement Proposal 110. Let's talk about that. So, of course, this has been the debate for months now, many months, and Saylor just weighed in on this, and we knew he had weighed in a few ways here and there, but I think this is the first time he is that explicit about his take on this. And so let me just tell you first of all, my take on the BIP110 issue is I'm not really maxi enough to have an opinion about this. I see a lot of the point. Nobody likes spam. Spam is annoying. But someone once sent to me in the comment section of this video, and I agree with them. Who am I to judge code? Like, right? Who am I to judge code? In blockchain, we often say code is law. The code is the law. Who am I to judge the code? If the code allows for data storage, and if code is law, code is code, and I have to ask myself, who am I to say that I should make changes like that? And so this is part of what Saylor has said multiple times. Like, it's important to be humble about the protocol. The protocol has worked so far. Do we want to change it? Do we want to introduce iatrogenic changes to the protocol when the protocol has worked so far? And this dawned on me. If you look at the Genesis block, right, the first Bitcoin block chain, the first block of the chain of Bitcoin. If you look at the first block, this could be a little bit of a hot take, but in many ways, could this be spam? The Times, January 3, 2009, Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. This is the first Satoshi mined block. There was a message in there. There was a message in that block. Is that spam? Would that be considered spam according to today's definition? So again, going back to the idea that code is code and code is law in blockchain, I think we have to be humble. And so I am humble on this. I'm humble to tell you that I'm not maxi enough to weigh in. And I tend to agree with Saylor. We shouldn't introduce changes. And my opinion is really neutral on this. I think we need to be careful to not hurt the protocol. Saylor clearly taking a stance against changing things and saying we should leave it as is. We should leave it as is, and we should save our energy for other threats that really matter. These are to be determined. I think quantum computing at some point in the future may require a patch, and so that's for old wallets too. There's also a lot of FUD on quantum computing. Let's be very careful. Quantum computing would hurt the old wallets, not the newer wallets. The newer wallets don't have a public key that's out in the open that can be stolen. But nonetheless, you could do some changes for quantum. Perhaps that's where all of the efforts of the community should be, and of course, finishing up on that. So Saylor says or implies that spam is not the worst thing. And so there's many ways to think about this. A lot of the people who are in favor of BIP110 say, well, I don't want to have to run a expensive node, a node that has very, very high requirements. And my take to this is that it's about the memory requirements, but does memory improve at the speed of Moore's law? Is the hardware getting better and cheaper at the same speed of Moore's law? Is it really that big of a deal to have a bigger chain to host on those nodes? I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure about that. Also, talking about spam. Spam is a thing on the internet, and sometimes there is undesirable spam. But the internet has a bunch of undesirable websites. I'm not sure. And blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain, is, in my view, an innovation at least as important as the internet. Of course, it's going to have some spam. And it's unfortunate. But does it mean that we need to actually change the blockchain for it and take that risk, introduce a new risk of a protocol update? I don't think it means that, and I think I am humble enough to say this. Who am I to judge code? Who are we to judge code? There was an inscription in the first Bitcoin blockchain, a sentence that's not supposed to be in a monetary network, but yet it is in a monetary network. And so if code is law, perhaps this is not the worst thing, and memory will keep up. Memory will improve, and the cost of computing will keep going down. So that's kind of my take. It's good to see Saylor actually weighing in the same way as Adam Back. And of course, Adam Back is one of the OGs out there. So I don't know where this is headed, but a lot of big names are speaking against protocol changes. So it could be that this is going to be a nothing burger at the end of the day. It could be, right? It could be. We'll see how that goes. Either way, I'm staying out of this debate. I'm not maxi enough to weigh in on this. That's my take. This was not investment advice. This is not financial advice. This is only entertainment. I'm hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.